What's going on, guys? Coach Joe here, back with another episode here. And I want to talk about discipline. So if you're hearing this right now, you obviously know I might not sound as normal as how I normally do on the podcast. My throat is a little scratchy. In fact, right now I have a cough drop in. A few weeks ago, I lost my voice, and I'll say it like this. I'm starting to lose my voice again. And I just want to share with you guys why I continue to do this. And it has, whether one person listens to the podcast or a million people listen to the podcast, regardless, I want to share with you guys just a little story that hopefully it can inspire you. Okay, so if you go back and way back in the podcast, I want to say, I don't know, somewhere in early August, okay, before I turned 30, my birthday's August 14th. Before I turned 30, I said on a podcast and I said, hey, I'm going to make a mission, right? A goal to myself that regardless of how I feel, I'm going to come on here and promote and produce a podcast Monday through Friday, whether I feel like it or not. Okay. There's been plenty of times where people, especially like my inner circle, my wolf pack, they even told me, they're like, Joe, you know, quality over quantity. Don't burn yourself out. Maybe just do 3 podcasts a week, you know? And at the end of the day, I could obviously do that. But here's the thing. And this is why I think in today's society, there's a dying breed of men out there. Okay. I train a lot of guys in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And I say it like this. Before these guys got signed up for Heartletics, they're just older boys, in my opinion, just older boys. There's a difference between a man, and like that's the transition that Heartletics is leading people to, is becoming a man again, becoming a leader. And what is this dying breed? Why is it so much, right? Well, I'll say it like this. How many times in your life have you stuck to your own word? How many times in, New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to lose 30 pounds. And then what happens? You give up, right? February hits, you give up. You go back to your old ways. And I don't know many people out there that can stick to their guns and say, right, like, all right, I'm going to do this and actually follow through with it. And I'll be honest with you, a good portion of my life, I've always been that type that would dive in head first, but then quickly dive out head first back, right? Because I was never a man of my word. And I learned how to become a man of my word by starting my own business, Heartletics. The first 3 years, it was so hard for me, my family. It was rough. But I said, I'm not going to give up. And if you go back to the podcast early August, I made a commitment to myself. I said, from the time I'm 30 to the time I'm 31, that's a whole year. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm recording a podcast episode Monday through Friday. Whether I'm on my deathbed, whether I have no voice, whether I'm in amazing shape, an amazing voice, it doesn't matter. Whether I feel like it or not. Why? I'll say it like this. And I'm not trying to brag or boast by any means, and I'm only saying this for inspiration for you. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're going to make a promise to yourself and a commitment to yourself, and if you can't follow through with that, how can you help out your friends? How can you help out your family? Like, I've lied to myself multiple times, right? And every single chance I get an opportunity to make a new promise to myself, a new commitment to myself, I look at the past and I said, okay, I'm not going to do what I did before in the past and give up. I've done that plenty of times in my life. I'm not going to do that anymore. I feel like at 30, I'm starting to live my best life because I'm taking ownership. I'm taking control over my life. And discipline is one of the best personal development traits that you can establish. In today's society, it's very hard to have discipline. And I absolutely hate when parents talk about disciplining their kids. Okay? I hate it. Want to know why? Because most parents out there, they don't even know how to discipline themselves. Once again, how many times have you made a promise to yourself or a commitment to yourself? Oh, I'm going to lose weight this year. Oh, I'm going to stick with this plan. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to do this. And then what happens? Everybody can do anything when life is easy. But when life gets hard, that's when the boys, right, are separated from the men. And I know a lot of people out there that, once again, they could be in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, 60s. They're still a little boy, plain and simple, because they don't know how to take ownership. They don't know how to take commitment. They don't know how to have the work ethic and the discipline to stick with it, whether they feel like it or not. You guys know I say it all the time. Successful people do what they have to do, whether they feel like it or not. I also say, hey, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If I'm going to break a promise to myself, I'm probably going to break a promise to my friends, my family, my coworkers, everybody like that. But if I can take ownership and control over my life and make a promise to myself and stick with it, how much better am I going to be out in the end with helping out my friends, my family, my coworkers? I want you guys to really hear that out. If I had more of a voice today, I would be screaming at you guys. And maybe that's why I don't have a voice, because I'm in this whole transition of really transitioning Heartletics to become the #1 coaching program, plain and simple. I'm literally, right, turning men into leaders. That's my mission. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. I posted a video yesterday to everybody at Heartletics saying, hey, just so everybody knows, I'm redesigning the whole entire coaching program all over again. Even though I recently just did that, I'm doing it again. I'm making the videos. And here's the first video. We're going to be going over emotional strength. Here's just a little sneak peek. And it was so powerful. A lot of the members, right, watched that video and instantly said, holy cow, this is going to be something that's amazing. And guess what? Sometimes that means that I got to put everything into it. And sometimes that means that when I'm showing up, I got to give it my all, whether I feel like it or not. And somebody can say, hey, Joe, just take a day off. Just take a day off, right? Like, you'll be fine. You can, hey, rest your voice, come back and give it 210% rather than, the 80% that you're giving right now. Screw that. Screw that. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Bruce Lee said it best. I don't fear the man that practices 1,000 different kicks one time. I fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times over and over and over and over again. I want to be living proof of discipline. I want to be living proof of leadership. If you guys listen to the Wolfpack Mentality podcast, you guys know I'm an alpha, right? I'm the leader of the pack. So if I'm going to be the one that's going to make a promise saying, hey guys, no, I put this out here on the podcast, right? Early August, no ifs, ands, or buts, whether I'm on my deathbed or not, whether I have a voice or not, every Monday through Friday, I'm coming on here. I'm recording a podcast. Now, let's just say, once again, I can do that when I have a voice. Easy peasy, right? But now all of a sudden I don't have a voice. And it's hard. I got to interview people today. I got coaching calls today. I got more videos to make on redesigning the coaching program. It's tough. But you know what? At the end of the day, I made a promise to myself. I made a commitment to myself. And remember, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's going to bleed into so many different areas of your life. So once again, how many times have you made a promise to yourself saying that you're going to do something, but then the minute it got hard, you stopped? I take ownership over my life. I take control over my life. That's why, like, if somebody's in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I got to talk to my spouse, like, give me a few days to think about it. Yeah, just, hey, don't even worry about it. It's not a good fit. Like, there is a fine line, right? And I'm drawing it in the sand, okay? Starting 2023, there is a fine line. If you want to be on the winning team, right, there is no excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a yes. That's it. If there's a no or a maybe or a think about it, hey, sorry, but your application is going in the trash and you're never going to become a client, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I promise you this, what happens when you become a member of Heartletics, you're going to get a life-changing transformation. And, it's hard for guys to take ownership, right? It's hard for guys to be open-minded. It's hard for guys to admit that I need help. I don't know how to burn body fat. I don't know how to create sustainable habits for me and my family. I don't know how to become a leader. But the minute that you do that, guess what? That's when the doors open up, the floodgates open up, and you can emit, right? And you can commit then the next steps to making a change that can happen in your life. So that's why we tell people, hey, starting 2023, if there's a no, or give me some time to think about it, or I got to talk things over with my spouse, sorry, it's not a good fit. Your application is going to get shut down. You're dequalified yourself. Peace out, Girl Scout, right? And once you're done, good luck applying again. That's all I got to say, because I realize here, I'm only trying to train, right? The guys that want it the most, right? The guys that they understand that I need help. I can't go to war by myself and with a dinky little pistol. I need tanks. I need the Air Force. I need the Army behind me. And every single day is a battle. Why? Because look at the world that we live in, right? There's so much pollution out there and negativity in the news, social media, everything like that. But you know what? I'm going to make sure that, hey, if I'm going to do something and become a leader and lead my son, lead my family to, hey, taking those unknown waters, stepping outside the comfort zone each and every day to lead by example, because that's what alphas do. And if you're in my wolf pack, hey, just because I don't have a voice right now, I'm still giving it my all. Why? Because if the alpha in the wolf pack decides to take a day off and everybody else, right, decides to go out there, and go on their little march, right, and the alpha's not there, well, guess what? What's going to happen when an enemy comes in? Whose fault is that going to be? That's going to come on me. Plain and simple. And you guys don't understand, like, that means everything to me. Everything. When I turned 30, I woke up. I became a man, right? I started taking responsibility for my own actions. I take commitment, right? So seriously now. I take ownership of my life once and for all. Why? Well, I'll say to you like this. Whether there's one person listening to this podcast or a million people listening to this podcast, I don't care. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. If, let's say, scratchy voice and all, right, having a hard time recording this podcast right now as we speak. I got cough drops. I got this sore throat spray. I got throat coat tea. I got, my water, everything like that. It's tough. And like I said, I got a whole bunch of stuff that I have to do today using my voice. It's tough. But at the end of the day, one person might listen to today's podcast and say, holy cow, dude, you inspired me. You're right. Discipline matters the most. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I'm going to commit to change. And let's say this person goes to heartletics.com. They watch the free fat loss coaching video that goes over our 7 essential fat loss habits for success. And let's say they start to doing a few of those. Maybe it's like walking and drinking plenty of water and eating their protein. Just start off small, which I recommend, right? Start off with the basics that are easy to do. And they decide to do that, right? And let's say that one individual, right? Let's just say that they decide to do that. Their family starts doing it with them. Everybody starts losing weight, Let's say that individual goes to work. They start going, for walks now, for their lunch breaks or whatever the case may be. Now their coworkers, right, are starting to see that inspired action, starting to see the difference in that individual's life. And guess what? Their coworkers are starting to change their life and create better habits. Well, guess what? Hey, Alpha over here, Wolfpack, yeah, that all started with me using my scratchy voice. But if I didn't do today's podcast, that might have not happened, right? And so I always say it like this is, what if today was the last day of your life, okay? And let's say tomorrow, you just didn't wake up and you're sitting there with God, and God is going to bring you to another room, and he's going to have a remote control and his big screen, right? And he's like asking you, he's like, so how was it down there, Joe? I'm like, oh, it was great, And he's like, oh, awesome. He's like, come over here, right? And to this other room with this big screen, and we're sitting on the couch now, having some popcorn, kicking it. And he's like, hey, let's watch this movie real quick. I'm like, okay. And the title goes on, Joseph Callari. And I'm like, oh man, what is this? Is this my life? Instead, it's the life that God wanted for me. It's the life that he had in store for me. It's the life that, hey, I wish I had, but what about that time when I didn't show up because I was too lazy, right? What about that time I didn't show up because I didn't have a voice? Like, you guys don't understand. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and it bleeds off into so many other aspects of your life. Why do you think I work out? Like, I do not personally like going to the gym, right? Like, I work out and it's hard. It's taxing on my body. But at the end of the day, I stick with it no matter how I feel like it or not. Why? Discipline. And you guys don't understand. That mental muscle right there, that's everything. And a lot of guys are lacking discipline in today's society. You cannot raise your family if you lack discipline. Remember, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Successful people show up whether they feel like it or not. This is hard, right? But regardless, I'm here. And I want this to be living proof for who's ever listening that regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how you feel, show up. As long as you show up, no matter how hard it is, it's eventually going to get easier. But here's the thing, when you make a promise and a commitment to yourself that you're going to show up whether you feel like it or not, I promise you, your life is going to change because that discipline is going to bleed off into other areas. And most importantly, it's going to bleed off into your friends, your family, your coworkers, your community. Want to know why? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You become like the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. So let's face the facts here. If you want to be that leader, it needs to start with you. If you want to change your family, it needs to start with you. At the end of the day, guys, all right, it does not have to be hard. The only thing that's hard is you are deciding to not take ownership over your life. You're not taking responsibilities for your own actions. And as long as you stick with it, regardless if it's hard certain days or, regardless if you're injured or sick, regardless, as long as you stick with it and make a promise to yourself, eventually it's going to get easier. Eventually it's going to get better. I'm going to have a voice next week, right? It's going to happen. But if I take today, tomorrow, the weekend off and not do what I have to do, I'm missing out on the opportunity to not only inspire other people, but I'm missing out on the opportunity to take ownership and take action. And most importantly, I'm missing on the opportunity of literally being a man of my word. And I'm 30 years old, and that means the world to me. Because if I can't even make a promise to myself and keep it, if I'm just going to lie to myself and say, okay, I'm going to do something, and then eventually stop, guess what? Where else is that going to bleed off to? Why do you think so many people don't know how to get in shape? Because they don't know how to work out their mental muscle. They don't know anything about discipline, and it doesn't have to be hard at all. The only thing that's hard is taking ownership of your life. But the minute you start doing that, I promise you, you will change your life. Just remember, successful people do what they have to do whether they feel like it or not. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. I really hope that you guys got some form of inspiration or value from today's podcast. If you did, definitely go share this with a friend, family member, loved one, or even on social media. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out, Girl Scout.